All right, so in this video, we're going to look um, at the muscle and nervous tissue, the last little bit. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these. They have their own chapters that we're going to get into, so I don't want to spoil that fun. This is slides 50 to 57 on our Horry Georgetown Tech PowerPoints. So let's go on. So muscle tissue, first one we look at, the main thing about this, the real big thing is they contract. They shorten with power. Again, we're going to look at this, that they're going to change shape with power. They can only pull, they can't push though. They're not able to push. They are excitable. They're going to have, they're very similar to neurons in the way that they're kind of built, except for these little contractile organelles inside of it. So they're attached to bone. The first one we look at, there's three types, I'm sorry, skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. The first one is skeletal muscle tissue. It's attached to bones. It's striated and it's voluntary. Let me see. I'm going to move on just for a second. There we go. So we got all three of the type of muscle tissues here on the same slide, and that makes it easier. So we've got skeletal muscle, right? We've got smooth muscle, and we have cardiac muscle. Now, skeletal muscle is the only muscle that is voluntary. The other two are involuntary. And as a matter of fact, skeletal muscle is the only thing that you have conscious control over. Skeletal muscle is the only thing that you have voluntarily control over. Everything else in your body is done involuntary, below your conscious level, which is a good thing. You don't want to have to go around, thinking about your heart, making sure it beats every, beat, and then go into your stomach. All right, I got to digest, release, to release this enzyme, blah, blah, blah. So, we're, be glad. Thank God that you don't have to think about all the things that your body's doing. So skeletal muscle is the only thing you have voluntarily, you control voluntarily. It is also, we're going to look at this, it is striated. Cardiac muscle is also striated. The reason that smooth muscle is called smooth muscle is that it is not striated. The striated look gives it this ridged appearance, almost like corduroy, basically. And so that's why smooth muscle is called smooth muscle, because it is not striated. The skeletal muscle, I'm hoping is associated with bones. This is skeletal muscle is the only type of muscle actually that's in the skeletal muscle system, the muscular system. Because, for instance, cardiac muscle, because it's in the heart, is in the cardiovascular system. Smooth muscle is in the organs, so if it's in the stomach, it's in the digestive system. So, I mean, they're in their own little space. Now, the only other thing I really want you to know here is that cardiac muscle has these specialized dark stripes in it called intercalated discs. All right, intercalated discs basically are going to be the junctions between the two muscle cells. So, like, for instance, skeletal muscle has the luxury of having bones on either side of it. So when it contracts with power, and it pulls, one of those bones closer to the other one. And so it's got these anchors that it can pull on. Cardiac muscle doesn't have those anchors, and it has to contract pretty strongly. It has to contract violently. I mean, you've got 60,000 on average. The average person is going to have 60,000 miles of blood vessels in their body. And that's a pretty thick fluid, and your heart's constantly trying to pump that stuff through there. So these intercalated discs are going to be the little areas between the muscle cells. And we talked about this at the beginning, the junctions, the desmosomes are going to be the things that are really, really holding this together, and that's why it has the dark look. But there'll also be gap junctions to allow the sarcoplasm, which is the cytoplasm of the muscle cell, the sarcoplasm to be shared between the cells, and that's why all of the cells can act as one unit. And we'll look at that when you get into the cardiovascular system in 211. So skeletal muscle, like I said, has these this striped appearance to it. Smooth muscle doesn't have stripes, so it's called smooth muscle. And in cardiac muscle, we'll have these darkened little stripes that are called intercalated discs. And again, these are just the specialized area where the two cells are connected, where you're going to have these desmosomes that are locking them together, along with gap junctions to help it all function as one unit. We move on finally to nervous tissue. Nervous tissue, again, is going to be just this ultra amazing type of tissue. It is the communication for our entire body. The main type of cell is called a neuron. Its job is to receive, receive information, and then when it reaches a certain level, to pass that information on. Coordinates, integrates, and regulates body functions. I mean, this is just one of the most amazing cells. And the big thing about it that I want you to know, first, it has a cell body. Not worried about you knowing that. Again, we'll look at the cell body a little bit when we get into this chapter. But the big thing is the difference between the two types of things coming off the cell body, the dendrite and the axon. With this, so if I say, this is the cell body, we're going to just look at all of these things and say, all right, these are things bringing information into the cell body. These are called dendrites. Now, a neuron can have multiple dendrites or only one. So like in your brain, the neurons inside your brain are going to have tens of thousands of dendrites and connections that are bringing information in. But again, not all neurons are like that. It might only have one. But the other thing is I have what's called an axon. The axon's job is to take information away from the cell body. Now, the big thing about the axon is there's only going to be one axon that leaves the cell body. It might branch 1,000 times after it leaves, but it's still only one axon that leaves the cell body. So dendrites bringing information in, I can have one or multiple. Axon taking information away, I will always only have one. And so this is a little chart giving you the idea of the different ones. I wouldn't get, too, don't stress too much about this. I encourage you to look at it. And for what I expect you to know at this point is things that are just the things that you should know coming in here. They are prerequisite type stuff. So about muscle and nervous tissue. So that concludes our videos for chapter 5. I hope that helped, and we'll be talking soon.